There have been many epic trilogies in the history of heavyweight boxing, and we have another one on our hands with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. When they first met in December of 2018, Fury controlled nearly every round, but was sent to the canvas in round 12 with a ferocious left hook by Wilder. But the Gypsy King showed the heart of a champion and unbelievably got up from that devastating shot. The fight would ultimately be ruled a split decision draw. It was considered a controversial ruling by many, with most media members scoring the fight for Fury. In the rematch, however, Fury would take that decision out of the judges' hands. An absolute one-sided mauling by Fury would follow, which was hailed by many as one of the greatest performances in heavyweight title fight history.
If he couldn't beat me when I was only 50% the man I am today, then he never had a chance tonight. I can't wait for the next fight, the rematch hopefully, if he wants it.
While Wilder was humbled inside the ring, he is now keenly aware of what type of effort it is going to take to knock off Fury. The Bronze Bomber is capable of turning anyone's lights out in a split second. But has he evolved enough since February of 2020 to solve the riddle that is the 6'9" Fury? We're going to find out Saturday night in Vegas.
Oh, let's get it on. Joining us in studio to get us set for the proceedings, none other than CBS Sports combat analyst and the host of the Morning Kombat, our guy, the King of Swing, Brian Campbell. BC, so much leading up to this fight. Two wild fights prior, a size disparity, the one-punch ability. I want to begin with the mental rather than the physical here. Since the knockout, some 20 months ago, that we were treated to, we've gotten a litany of excuses from the Bronze Bomber, including but not limited to the weight of his workout vest, the weight of his walkout vest, excuse me, the legitimate poisoning that he claimed, maybe some loading of gloves. All of this that we've gotten over the last 20 months. You got to talk to the man himself just a few days ago. Assess the mental heading into this third.
Look, the positive I can say from talking to Deontay Wilder ahead of this is, has he fully reconciled with how that second fight gone? Well, he's at least humble in saying maybe I needed that loss. What he hasn't done, which has been a little bit, let's say, controversial or disruptive, is not take any of the blame. But here's the thing at the end of the day. Deontay Wilder doesn't have to convince any of us that he is repaired from that second fight, from the first loss of his career. He only has to convince himself. And if his truth ultimately is different from what we perceive it to be, if that truth can get him fired up and get him looking for revenge and looking for blood, which was his quote heading into this fight, then he is what he is, Joe. And that is a live underdog with arguably the biggest punch in boxing history. So it's going to come down tonight to what Wilder did with that unexpected time, the 18 months you mentioned, nearly 2 full years, rebooked his team, rebooked his style. What are we going to see on Fight Night?
BC, how much of that maybe internal doubt can you credit to round 12 of the first bout? The Gypsy King knocked to the mat. The celebration had already begun, but Fury essentially saying, I will take the kiss of death and I will move forward. How much of the doubt inside of Deontay Wilder is accredited to that moment?
It's big. It's big. That moment probably had a little bit more to do with Fury, who realized I don't need to be the boxer against the puncher Wilder to win this fight, which essentially is saying I've got to throw a perfect game in baseball terms and live and die on every pitch, sweating it up. What he realizes he learned in the second half of that 12th round when he got up off the canvas that he can put the pressure on Wilder, and that Wilder does not fight good off the back foot. That we know he has technique issues. We know he's got not foundational, traditional boxing skills if they're coming to this late. So Fury in that second fight, of course, became the offensive aggressor. We saw what happened. It was a one-sided effect. I don't think that had as much of a mental effect on Wilder as maybe we think. Yes, Fury took his best shot and got up. Wilder still believes in his power. He still believes he's that man. He won a court injunction to force this third fight into happening. But you do have to wonder, though, entering this fight, is it all or nothing for Deontay Wilder? Will he continue his career should he lose at age 35? He has been so almost invincible along the way to that point. To suffer the first defeat in the manner that he did, he's got a lot of questions to answer tonight.
We will get The long-term implications of this one in just a moment, but not long ago, we were talking about Fury being the guy whose mental was coming into question, but now he enters with all the bravado and the brash of a heavyweight champion. Assess these two men at the weigh-in, what you saw from the both of them.
Yeah, it was interesting. They were not allowed to go face-to-face. Maybe a little bit of fear from what we saw with Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant just a little bit less than a month to go. But what we saw, though, was a lot of bravado, a lot of brash talking back and forth. I think for Tyson Fury, if there's any worry, right? It's not that, he would dip back into some of the problems we saw when he stepped away from the sport for 4 years, to mental health battles, to addiction issues. It's just that this guy hasn't been good with idle time throughout his career. He's often played up or down to the level of his opponent. His fitness and the preparation for the fights would also play into that up or down. Obviously, he has more than enough reason to get into great shape for this one, given that Wilder can finish him at any point in the fight. But I think Fury has a few questions of his own to answer coming into this, just in terms of, is there reason for him to be up? There's not a lot to gain in this. There's only more to lose. We know the winner wants to get closer to becoming one name, one face, one division, one champion, the undisputed 4-belt champion. We hope we can get there, right? This isn't a fight Fury thought he was going to have to do again, so it's going to be interesting to see what element that mental part plays into it.
We seem to be moving in the opposite direction from that unified belt, but different conversation for a different day. Wilder, you spoke of the approach in the first two fights and maybe how he needs to alter that approach. Fury was willing to do so, to come away with the win, and convincingly so in the second bout. What is the biggest strategic change tonight for Deontay Wilder if he does want to come out of here and give the pound for pound, one of the best boxers in the world, not just a big galoot throwing punches, but the sweet science that is possessed by the current heavyweight champion?
There's got to be a little bit of setup to what he does. Look, what did Fury do great in the first fight? Took away Wilder's jab by being so many feints, so much of an active guard in front of him. In the second fight, he took away Wilder's everything by forcing him to the back foot. What we need from Deontay Wilder in this fight is to establish that jab first and foremost, but to add some elements and wrinkles to his game that hopefully he has worked on in the past 2 years. He brought in new head trainer Malik Scott, a first-time trainer. It was actually Wilder's former opponent who he knocked out early in his career on the rise. Malik Scott, though, is a boxing mind, a traditionalist, defensive-based, smart boxer. You're not going to expect overnight for Deontay Wilder to look like Sugar Ray Leonard in there. We know what we're going to expect, but we need some wrinkles on it. One thing that's come out of training camp and the many videos that Wilder is allowed to float on social media is the focus on the body. We have never seen Deontay Wilder really do much beyond looking to headhunt with that right hand and occasional left hook. What can he do, though, from the fundamental standpoint to enhance his power and set it up? That's going to have to be key, unless, Joe, he just comes out there looking to let it all go off the start. It's a possibility that this is an absolute firefight in the trilogy here.
You talk about the focus on the body of Tyson Fury, but the body of oneself as well, coming in looking a little more buff, looking like that punch might even have a little bit more pop behind it. What about on the Tyson side of things? What's his path of least resistance here if he wants to walk away with that belt still in hand? It's obviously a really nice mixture of size and speed. How does he take advantage of that here?
He's a great boxer, but he learned in that second fight that if I walk down Wilder, as we mentioned, I can have great success. It's going to have to be a little bit of nuance, though, in that, because you can ask yourself, is that still the best strategy to overwhelm Wilder, to come at him with activity? In some ways, yes. Wilder is a bully inside that ring, and when we saw when he got bullied in the second fight, he didn't know how to handle it. He didn't have any course of action. I do, though, believe if you're Fury's camp, you have to believe with the time off, with the 20 pounds of muscle that Wilder has added on, that he's going to be as live in game and ready for revenge, which means as dangerous as we have seen him up to this point. So if you're Fury, yes, the quickest path to success in this might be walking down the puncher once again, but you do have to be careful in that walk, because Wilder, it's a cliche to say it at this point, but if he just touches you with either hand, the fight could be over. So I think for Fury, it's mostly the same game plan, but it's also a little touch and go. You're going to have to be careful in spots.
Cliche is often born out of truth. We'll see how it plays out here on Saturday night, BC. You made an interesting statement there. Not a whole lot for Tyson Fury to gain in this situation, but Deontay Wilder's back is against the wall. We're talking about a 35-year-old fighter who has not had his hand raised in a lone victory in quite some time. What would a win tonight mean for Deontay Wilder?
It would mean absolute retribution. It's very rare throughout the history of heavyweight boxing that you see somebody win the championship, lose it, even in this era of proliferation of so many belts, and come back and win it again. Let's be very honest about what Wilder's reaction to that first loss in 2020 did for his reputation. It soiled it completely. The excuses, the conspiracy theories, everything there. Wilder has a chance to come back to this American media, which, by the way, he feels offended that didn't get his back in this rivalry, considering he's fighting, quote unquote, a foreign fighter from another land. But this would be the ultimate retribution, as Roy Jones Jr. once sang. I know you got this CD. Y'all must have forgot. Wilder's got that opportunity tonight, although he said, Joe, we will not see a fourth fight, win or lose, between these two, which is interesting.
Just another example of some questionable statements by Deontay Wilder leading up to this fight, him questioning media members.
Well, as I said,
who he could be talking about, I don't know, but you did lock down the interview, and for that, we thank you. But we do have to put a pick to this matchup. Fury, an underdog in the first two meetings, positioned as a minus 280 favorite here, BC. Two-part question. Is Tyson Fury overvalued in this spot, and which side of this match do you fall on?
I think with the danger of Wilder, the odds are just about right, because it could go horrible for Wilder, and he can still win the fight. So that's what we know. So here's the deal. I think Fury's strategy is going to have to mirror the second one, using this as his mission statement. I got to get him before he gets me. So I need an active, aggressive Fury who goes after Wilder, overwhelms him, and looks to get him out of there. What are we going to see in this third fight? I think the most violent, the most exciting of the trilogy so far. You might even have to see Tyson Fury get up off the canvas to try to win this fight, which we've seen him do before in this rivalry. Give me Tyson Fury by fifth round knockout. I think it's going to be a war, but skills ultimately pay the bills. When you're 6'9", you got the speed, you got the backbone, and you're a fighting man, as the Gypsy King likes to say.
BC, you know I will never question your allegiances, and that's why you're always welcome here on CBS Sports HQ. He'll be with us post-fight as well. Thank you, BC. And don't forget, there's only one place to be for all your combat needs. That's with our guys on the Morning Kombat. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, daily breaking down all things with a clock, a bell, and fists. Download, subscribe, and enjoy today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.